So the first and most obvious difference is in the design language of these devices. We have a new industrial look with the 2018 iPad. It's a lot more angular and futuristic. There is no home button as well. You have purely navigational gestures with this device. Whereas with the iPad Air 3, it takes after the iPad Air 2 and the iPad Mini that was launched in 2012. So this is a pretty legacy design. It's more rounded, and of course, you have a home button with it as well. And to quickly compare the biometrics here, I think both are equally fast and pretty convenient as well. Although I do like just looking at my iPad to unlock it. That is a plus with the iPad Pro. Another key design distinction is what you do with the Apple Pencil. With the iPad Air 3 and pretty much every other iPad, you have the first gen pencil, which kind of chills around it. And of course, you have to plug it directly into your iPad if you want to charge it, which just looks dumb. Whereas with the iPad Pro, you get the second gen pencil, which is a bit more expensive, albeit it attaches right to the side of the iPad and charges very, very conveniently. These devices also differ in input. With the iPad Air 3, you get the legacy Lightning port, which has been around since 2012, whereas with the iPad Pro, you get the very versatile and new aged USB Type-C, which allows you to connect to external storage very easily and to other adapters you can buy off Amazon to connect to like SD card readers and such. So yeah, the port or the input with the iPad Pro is definitely superior and will accommodate more professional work. There's also a difference in the speaker setups on here. You just get two down firing with the iPad Air 3, which is technically kind of like stereo, but not really, because it's only coming out of one side of the device. Whereas with the iPad Pro, you get a real stereo experience with 4 separate drivers on each of the 4 corners. I'll do a little test here to give you a listen. So after that test, I have to say, I'm impressed with what the iPad Air 3 can muster. However, it just doesn't sound as full because, of course, you're missing 2 speakers that you could find on the iPad Pro. So if you're looking for superior audio for, I don't know, music production or just media consumption, then this is definitely the device to consider. But if you're not super freaky about that, then this will suit you very well. And speaking of audio, there is a headphone jack with the iPad Air 3, whereas with the iPad Pro, you're out of luck. So if you want to use wired headphones, then maybe the iPad Air 3 is going to be your go-to device. But I don't think it's a big deal because there are definitely a lot of great wireless alternatives today. And then once again, due to the home button, you do get home button based navigation as well as some gesture based stuff with the iPad Air 3, whereas with the iPad Pro, it is purely gesture based, which I actually prefer, especially with the 120 Hz display on here, which we'll talk about. And also something to keep in mind, I would really not worry about this in most circumstances, but the iPad Pro is a little bit more prone to bend if you're really, really careless. So if you find yourself being someone who's just kind of throwing your iPad around, then this might be the more durable option. Oh, and before I forget to mention, both these devices do have smart connectors. On the iPad Air 3, it's located on the side, and on the iPad Pro, it's located on the back, but both serve the same function. Both allow you to connect to keyboard cases and power them without Bluetooth.